Lots of you had something to say about this next thing. Karen Knox, are they?
Hi. If Birmingham is no longer in the red, why are we being charged extra council tax when we have shocking roads, a bin strike that never ends, and no one is being held accountable?
So you sound thoroughly fed up, Karen.
Absolutely.
Right, so look, for those of you who don't know, you will all know, but for those of you watching at home who may not be quite so up to speed with this. So in 2023, Birmingham City Council issued a Section 114 notice. So that is essentially declaring bankruptcy. In the last month, I think it is beginning to emerge out of that. But in the meantime, it's been under sort of special measures, and government-appointed people have been kind of overseeing what's been going on. There has also been a bin strike for over a year. And at the moment, there's no sign of it ending. Lisa, I'm going to come back to you, because, I mean, this is the UK's second largest city. It's the biggest council in Europe. Financial crisis, the bin strike that drags on and on. This is a Labour council. You can't be proud of this.
No, look, I mean, first of all, on the bin strike, it is appalling, and it's been going on for far too long. And I want to be absolutely crystal clear. There are offers on the table from Birmingham City Council, and I say this with real feeling as somebody who has been a member of a trade union for as long as I've been in work, and who believes fundamentally that people have the right to be paid and treated properly. But there are offers on the table, and we need the unions, and Unite in particular, to sit down, get round the table and agree to a proposal. Those offers have been made, and it is absolutely essential that that happens as soon as possible. I really share your anger about that. It needs to be resolved. This is a great city, and it is being held back by this issue. And in terms of the wider financial crisis, look, this is a big problem for councils the length and breadth of the country, because, you know, think about my council. We lost a third of our budget in the first year of the Conservative Lib Dem coalition government, and it wasn't an accident, actually. If you remember the rhetoric around that time, it was about rolling back the bloated states, they used to call it. And the idea was that if you cut back the public sector, then the private sector would suddenly magically flourish to fill the gap. But what did it mean? It just meant that our public services ended up on their knees, and we lost good expertise as well. Now, we're rebuilding that, so we've just increased the amount of funding available to Birmingham in particular, councils in general. We've also introduced longer-term funding settlements, because most people in this room probably don't know, but it's absolute. You will know, Jess, as a councillor previously, it's an absolute nonsense that you have councils who get a one-year funding settlement, so they're writing their budgets before they even know how much money they've got in them. So we think that will produce better value for money and better decision-making. And we're doing much, much more about investing in Birmingham more generally. I hope that will mean your council tax bills will go down, but most of all, this bin strike really is holding back one of the best cities in the world, and it needs to be resolved.
Alicia.
I mean, I think it's extraordinary. I think you've been incredibly let down. And I find it really odd, because I sit in Parliament, and if this was my community, I'd be putting in urgent questions, which is the only way that backbench MPs can essentially force the government ministers to come and answer your questions. I'd be putting one in every single week. And I'm afraid, I think you're being let down by your local members of Parliament, because I think we've only had two. And when two urgent questions in all this time that you've been dealing with has been issues, and when the ministers come, there are no meaningful answers. And I do think, I'm sorry, it's about the relationship between Labour and their trade unions. And it really disappoints me. And I wish, and this is a very political point, I wish you still had Andy Street, because I do not think he'd have just sat by and let it happen.
How do you then explain that when your party was in government, you had these issues over in Coventry?
We did not have been.
And I raised that. I raised that over and over again.
For those who don't know.
Does anyone remember bins being out on the streets in Coventry for 18
Well, I don't live in Coventry, but the people of Coventry do. And I raised that issue over and over again with Michael Gove, and his answer was it's nothing to do with government. So I'm sorry, but I'd really agree with what you said at the start of that, but please don't try and pretend that somehow it was different under a Conservative
I'm afraid
government.
it is different.
It absolutely wasn't.
Because we all know about the bin strikes. I don't represent Birmingham. I've known about the bin strikes. I've been monitoring them. I don't remember Coventry, in which case I apologise for the fact that I didn't know about those. But we know about bin strikes here, And it has been absolutely
about them in
extraordinary
Coventry.
seeing Labour MPs too scared to raise with their own government what is going on with the Labour Council under their government.
Well-
and that's why it's quite easy. Look at Hansard, which is the record of how often MPs have raised it. You'll see they haven't raised it, and Birmingham MPs haven't even then turned up when the questions have been asked in the
Right.
chamber.
Well, there's lots of hands up, not surprisingly, on this point. So let's see, where are we going to go? Yes, the man there in the second row in the blue sweater. Yeah.
Hi, Lisa. Sorry, you talked about the extra funding that might be coming into Birmingham. When do you think that will be? Because right now we're facing increased council taxes. Obviously, we talked about the bins, but our roads are just literally holes everywhere.
Yeah.
To the point where it's actually really dangerous.
Like driving on the moon.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we've
Right, really
I drove
It's like you're driving like
Yeah,
this,
no,
like,
100
like a computer game.
Yeah.
100%, and that is the case up and down the country. We've had over a
Okay,
decade of
so when's the extra
underinvestment.
funding coming
I'm not
in?
making excuses because we're in government and
When's
it's our
the
job
extra
to
funding
fix it,
coming
and
in?
we will. So we've just allocated the funding to Birmingham City Council, so that has been allocated now, so that has
Okay.
happened, and we've also invested in filling in potholes across Birmingham and across the country as well. It's the biggest investment that has been for a very long
All
time.
right.
Where?
Man in the grey shirt at the very back there.
Just on council tax, there should be a freeze. When all these strikes and things like this is going on, there should be a freeze because it's affecting so many people and the cost of living is going up and everything else. So I think we should do a freeze until this is all sorted.
Yes, the council tax, as again you will all know, has gone up by around 18% over 2 years, which is no small sum. Yes, person there, and you've got a grey top and a white shirt underneath it, I think. Yes, you.
Oh, yeah. You just said that you've invested money in the roads in Birmingham. On my 15-minute journey to work this morning, I counted 30 potholes. 30.
Yeah.
I don't see any work going on.
No, well, that's why we put the money up. So that money has just gone in, and so you should see improvements. But this is an issue
long
of the
will that gonna
length and
take?
breadth of the country after over a decade of underinvestment.
Okay.
And we made a commitment at the election we would turn that around, and that is what we're doing.
Karen, you stuck your hand up
I
again.
did, yeah. I'm pretty much going to repeat what was just said. I mean, when you're driving to work, it's like dodging cars. You're not only looking out for the traffic as you should be, but you're trying to dodge the holes because your car's going to get damaged. And I know I'm going to be going to court if that happens to me. Yeah, it's just not on.
Jess.
Thank you. So when we talk about Birmingham, it's an economic powerhouse. It's got a huge industrial heritage. It's got so much untapped potential. So I have a proposal for you, Lisa, which the Liberal Democrats laid out about a month ago, which is we think a big problem about why we're not getting growth in this country is that basically the Treasury has this computer says no approach to everything that could actually get growth going. So we'd cut it in half. We'd have the Treasury in London being the Office of Expenditure, and then we'd have the Department of Growth based right here in Birmingham, because the economic output of Birmingham compared to London is 40% behind London because you've had such little investment in Birmingham. If we could close that gap by just 10%, it would raise an additional £12 billion in
So how does splitting a department into two create more money?
Because at the moment, the Treasury basically block everything. They are holding all of the money in one place. If you look at places like Ireland, they have 2 different departments. Australia also do the same thing. They have 2 different departments. One that's in charge of tax receipts and expenditure, and another department which is totally focused on getting the engine of growth going.
Department of Business and Trade.
And so there is, and I'm sure if the
That's what
Department of Business and Trade is
meant to be
doing that, then it goes to the Treasury, and the Treasury says no.
That's
so
why we
you
wrote an
split that in
industrial
half,
strategy.
and it's a real opportunity to get growth going. But importantly, put investment here in Birmingham,
That's
so
what we're
that
doing.
Birmingham can
That's
grow.
what we're doing at places like Digbeth Law.
Esther.
I'm surprised no one has mentioned austerity. So between 2010 and 2020, councils received 26% less in funding from the central government because of austerity. In the worst hit councils, like Birmingham, it was up to 35%. And many Birmingham City councillors have said that the city lost about £1 billion in funding over that period, which obviously set them back. But the reality is of this entire debacle is 2 things. The council is too big. This is the largest council in Europe, even though Birmingham is the 26th largest city in Europe. It's too big. And what happens is there's not enough accountability, because in 2012, when you had a Labour supermajority as a result or in reaction to all of these to austerity measures, there was basically no accountability. All of these decisions were being made. The Oracle IT system, for example, that was estimated to cost £19 million, is now somewhere estimated to cost around £170 million. And that's if it works. And then you had the equal pay lawsuits that the Birmingham City Council was warned about for years before this latest tranche of equal pay claimants came in, the city had already spent £1 billion on equal pay claimants because of how they structured the jobs and pay grades for Birmingham City Council employees. So the council had a lot of warning, and they still chose not to do anything about it. And so you had a second tranche of all these equal pay claims that basically hit at the same time as this Oracle fiasco, and you now have a council that was at the time £1 billion in debt. How we can allow any council to get into £1 billion of debt is actually a marvel. Bear in mind, no one has been fired. You can never run a company that way. If you ran a lemonade stand the way we run our government, it would close within a week for hygiene issues, but somehow people get away with it. So, you know, the fact that the council was set back in funding is one thing, but we have to have measures in place that actually forces people to be accountable. You cannot run up a debt of £1 billion and expect your residents to have their council tax increase for reduced services. That is an insult, and that is not acceptable. And when it comes to the bin strikes, they could end tomorrow. You know the reason why they're not ending it? Because the Labour Council does not want to hire private contractors to collect the bins, because the bin workers in Birmingham City is a unionised workforce, and as they should be. Why should they receive? Why should they receive
hiring
less
agency
pay?
workers, are they not?
Why should they receive less pay? Because Birmingham City Council refused to get on top of the equal pay claimants and actually change the structure of how they employ people.
Esther, as I understand it, Birmingham City Council has hired agency
They've got
workers.
agency contractors.
They don't want to hire them on a permanent basis,
full-time,
which is
okay.
why this is
Tom.
all going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the frustrations that the residents of Birmingham have been echoed by many people watching this up and down the country and finding similar frustrations with their own city councils. I absolutely find that outstanding that the UK's second biggest city has run up a debt that's so huge and so hard. I don't know enough about running city councils, but I imagine it's very similar to trying to run a business. You have income streams and you try to spend it properly in the correct and right manner. I imagine this is down to a continued issue of long-term underfunding. Businesses, I'm sure over the years you've probably seen many high street businesses close, retail spaces disappear, hospitality venues shut. That's revenue stream for councils. That is taxation purposes. That's business rates that should be coming in to the council for them to be able to spend, even if they are pumped up by 42% or 115%.
Right.
But business closure, so when it comes to, it will come to, I imagine, if this isn't something that's happened overnight, this is something that's been long-term mismanagement and underfunding.